You like that. Woo!
What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Pull Up Show. My name is BJ Matthews, aka P Jizzle. Before we get started, follow the YouTube page, the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Like, share, subscribe all of our YouTube videos. Go on to our Twitter, our Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Gracious enough for you guys to definitely come in here, man. As well as we also have our Cash App, which is $ BJ Matthews, for all this great content that we have for y'all, man. Go and show your love to the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. If you have a comment or a super sticker y'all want to share, if we don't get a chance to see your comment, hit that super comment button right below the video where it says thanks, that $. You can hit that button. We'll get your comment read out, instantly. Also hit the like button as y'all enter in to get the notifications out. We have 15 people in here right now, so I should see 15 likes. Let's go through some of these comments. Shout out to my man Douglas Mike. He said, I'm here for Locked On Warriors.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming in, my man. Shout out to my man Bruce, Warrior Faithful. You know what I'm saying? Follow the Locked On Warriors as well. Hello, everyone. And shout out to my, my co-host Rick Masters. Grand evening, everybody. We're going to have a great show for y'all, man. But first, let's get into the emphasis, man. We have a very special guest for y'all today. He was so gracious for us to come in. Locked On Warriors host Cyrus. I don't want to pronounce your last name, so I'm just gonna go with Mr. Cyrus. You know what I mean?
No, give it a try. Give it a try at least, man. It's hard. I get it.
Cyrus Saatsaz.
Close enough. Close as Saatsaz. There's only two people in this whole country, maybe the whole world, that have that last name. And my dad and I, it's a horrible last name, but I have to live with it, and here I am. So, yeah.
Let me ask you off the record. What's your ethnicity? What are you?
My dad is Persian, so that's where that. But here's the weirder part: is like my grandfather, who I never met. My dad's dad died when he was 15. I just learned this a year ago. He changed his last name to Saatsaz, and supposedly where they're from, that was like a cool name. So right. My dad's Middle Eastern, and that's why I look all weird as well. But yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. Hey, but let's get into it, man. We're all NBA fans here, but of course, we're talking here about the Warriors, Golden State Warriors. But before we get into business, bro, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background as far as in the basketball scene? Did you ever play, or how'd you get into hoops? What's your background when it comes to basketball, first and foremost?
Yeah, I grew up, I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I grew up with like a weird, I don't know what you would call it, but it was like I grew up with two ankles that were just totally screwed up. Like they were both missing like a bone in them. And so I had to have this like crazy surgery when I was like a 5-6-year-old kid, just so I could walk without pain. And so most of my childhood, I couldn't play like full contact sports, right? So football was out of the equation. So I played some baseball, but basketball I just fell immediately in love with. And so I guess it's one of the rare things I can thank my parents for is getting me involved in CYO basketball when I was like 7-8 years old. Never stopped playing from that time all the way through my 30s. But again, I was, I didn't have the athleticism when I was young to be like a star player of any kind. I realized early on, because of my lack of athleticism as a kid, that I would have to be an amazing shooter if I was going to have any chance at this game. And so I actually like led my leagues in 3-point shooting some years. That was my entire, what saved me was my shot. And I was lucky enough to have touch on my shot. When people ask what that means, it's hard to explain, but it's just, some people just, when they shoot it, you hear a big loud clank. Like I feel like Andrew Wiggins is an example of someone who maybe didn't have a lot of touch on his threes, although that's gotten better in recent years. So I've always had touch on my shot, man. I don't know why, but I did. And, so I played most of my life. Again, nothing like collegiate or anything like that, because I'm 5'10". I just had no shot at it. And then I also was like a super huge sports nerd. Are we still on the air, by the way?
Oh yeah, we still on, man.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, we're still
and
on.
Then yeah, man. So
yeah.
But and then like around like when I was when I was 22, 23, I think it was 21, maybe somewhere around there. I interned at a radio station called KNBR. And just because, I grew up a total nerd, like reading newspapers and reading the sports section. And, I figured might as well try to make something with all this useless knowledge that I have in my head. And so I worked at a sports talk radio station that ended up being a 10-year stint. And that really led to everything, man. Like while I was there, I was executive. One of my first full-time jobs there was executive producing a 3-hour daily show that Rick Barry hosted. And that's a connection that I still have to this day. Like him and I became friends. And so besides Locked On Warriors, I also host a show called The Rick Barry Show. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's my background, man. And I love the sport dearly, born and raised in the Bay Area. And, I was a Warriors fan since the days of Sleepy Floyd and Mully back when he had hair. Where are you from, by the way? Where are you based out of? I'm curious.
So I'm from, I was actually born in Vallejo, Lake Hall Valley Joe, which is in the central part. Yeah. That's where I was born.
Yeah, my mom's in American Canyon right next door.
Yes, sir. So I went there, and then I moved to Southern California when I was younger, and then moved to Texas when I was 6. San Diego. That's where I'm at right now.
The city of San Diego or like North County? Like where you at?
The city part in Spring Valley. That's where I grew up at. I don't know how familiar you are with San Diego, but yeah, it's super big. And I moved to Texas. That can be a culture shock from going from the West Coast. West Coast going to the South, you know what I'm saying? Like the heat, the people, everything's like from night and day. So I came back here 4 years ago.
Congrats.
After that, then I'm stuck here. I'm stuck like Chuck.
Dude, congrats, man. Look, I lived in Encinitas, which is just north of you, for 4 years. And I moved there. It was just a crazy time in my life. I was like 31, 32. I had a surf shop in San Francisco that I had to close. I sold it actually, but I was just in this weird place in my life. Long-term relationship ended. And I had a few freelance gigs going. I was like writing for USA Today and Huffington Post. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to move to San Diego, man. I want warm weather. I want to just, finally tune this craft I've dedicated most of my life to, which is surfing. And I ended up staying there for 4 years. And that's how I got into grad school and became like a professor. That's my other job that I do. But I love San Diego, man. I would have stayed. It's just hard to find work there. But I also lived in Texas for 2 years. Hated that experience, man. So congratulations, dude. Congrats for getting out and getting back to California.
Yeah, but my best friend, my co-host, that's where I met him at. So there was something good that came out of it.
There you go.
So
there you go.
But then what's funny is before we get into like the Warriors, Steve Kerr lives out here too. He lives in
he does.
I'm not gonna say Rancho Santa Fe, and that's where we actually met at. So it's a great place to be at, bro. Honestly.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so I guess that answers how, because I saw Steve Kerr on your show a few weeks ago, and I was thinking to myself, how the hell did you do that? Because Kerr doesn't do one-on-ones with like anyone, except for this one radio station that he has like this contractual agreement with. They're the flagship of the Warriors. I interviewed Steve Kerr back in 2017. I met up with him in Denver. The Warriors were traveling. They were playing the Nuggets. I was living in Wyoming at the time. That's a whole other story. And so I did the sit-down interview with him for like 20 minutes where we just talked about surfing because I heard he surfed. I didn't know much about it and about his background in that. So I wanted to find out. And that's where I learned, that he surfs Del Mar all the time. Him and Judd Bushler. I don't know if you see him when you're down there. Like, I guess they're like best friends.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, man. Great guy. Great, human being. Great coach. Top 5. All that, man.
Hell yeah.
But let's get into the Warriors, man, because a lot of stuff we got to talk about. So, Locked On Warriors, you've been doing this CSF for 2 years. How did you get into Locked On Warriors, and was it definitely a long process to get into that?
No, I back in like 2019, somewhere around there, there's another podcast network that's called Believe, and one of my really old friends from I don't know how we've known each other like 20 years. It's a crazy story. He married the daughter of the founder of FedEx. And so he married into money. Like that's real money, man. That's like billionaire type money. And so he comes into like, he never has to worry about money again for the rest of his life. And I don't know what the situation was, whether like his wife or his dad was like, hey, what do you want to do? He decides to start a podcast network with this money. And so he starts Believe. And Believe was originally based in LA, and then they started expanding. And when they started their expansion and they wanted to basically like follow the Locked On model of having a show covering every team, I immediately told him like, dude, I want the Warriors gig. Like give me that. And he was like, all right. But their formula was for every show that you cover, you have to do it with a former pro who played for that team. Like that was their model. I don't know how strictly they follow it, but so he told me, he goes, look, man, you can be the host of the Believe in Warriors show, but you need to have a former player do it with you. And Rick and I stayed in touch all these years. And so I asked Rick if he wanted to join me in this venture. And he was like, yeah. And so he had his own terms, we had lawyers and stuff for a few months, haggling out the contract. We agree. We launched the Rick Barry show. And the Rick Barry show has never been anything that's like huge. Like, I don't make like good money from it. Like, Rick and I do it mostly just as fun. It gives us a chance to talk basketball, once a week, once the other week, whenever we do it. It gives him a chance to get a little break from, whatever it is that's boring him or annoying him at home. And maybe annoying is not the right word, but whatever. It's an escape for him. It keeps him active in the media game. I love Rick personally. And Locked On just basically, they came to me. I never pursued it. They were listening to the Rick Barry show, and they asked, and I guess the previous host before me, Wes Goldberg, he was a beat reporter covering the Warriors for the San Jose Mercury News. He was moving back to Florida. He was going to be the Locked On Heat host, which is what he's still doing today. And he thankfully recommended me, man, which is still huge. Wes, I forever owe you for that. And originally, so that's how it all started, man. They needed a new host. They found me. They said they were listening to me and Rick do a show, and that's how that was the genesis of that. But the interesting part of all that is they had me originally co-host the show with this newspaper columnist named Dieter Kurtenbach, who still has that job. But we never met. We did not know each other at all. And look, not every relationship works out. It was definitely months of interesting behind the scenes back and forths. Sometimes you'd see it bleed over to the show. And then Dieter finally, after a few months, he was never committed to it. So after a few months, he bailed. And for me, that was a really good thing because it let me kind of take over the direction of the show, and it's kind of turned into what it is now. So sorry for the long-winded answer, but hopefully that answers it.
No, I love it, man. I love the detailed answer you gave, man, for sure. I'm trying to learn from, because Dom, I've been on him for quite a minute. He's on Locked On Clippers, so he actually put me on to you. Yeah. Dom,
he's a good dude. He's a good kid. Guys. I call him a kid. He's young, man. Right? He's 24, 25, I think.
Yeah, he's 5 years younger than me, so yeah, he's 25.
Okay, but he's an awesome human being. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, for sure. Now, so let's get into it. Let's talk about the first thing, bro. We gotta talk about, of course, what happened last season. I know I saw some of your videos actually today, and going to, of course, the Jordan Poole, Draymond Green incident. But what was your emphasis of last year? What happened? Why did the Warriors underachieve, or do you feel like going into the season they were on the right track? What was your emphasis going into the 2022-2023 season for the Warriors?
I feel like what happened last year, and look, so much of this is subjective, so maybe you don't agree, and that's obviously okay, man. But for me, what the alarm bells for me started ringing during the offseason when the team unexpectedly waived Quinndary Weatherspoon, really inconsequential two-way player. Unless you study this team incredibly closely, you would never think to yourself, why Quinndary Weatherspoon? So what? He's a two-way player. For me, the alarm bell started going off when that happened because the Warriors decided not to bring Gary Payne II back. And all Quinndary Weatherspoon was doing during the offseason was talking about how he wants to step up and take GP2's place as this defensive stalwart, as someone who's like a complete hustle guy. And he did perform on the court. I don't know what he's doing now. I think he tried out just recently for Orlando or somebody. I don't know if he made it or not, but regardless, he was supposed to be one of the two-way players along with Lester Quinones. And then last minute, they had this change of plans, and they waived Spoons altogether. Quinones went to Santa Cruz, and then they brought in Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb. I did not understand that move at all, man. I am not big on the point guard position. To me, in college and high school, you absolutely need someone who can handle the rock, who can run the offense. I don't think that position is that important in the NBA. And if you need evidence to substantiate that, look at any of the recent titles or any of the recent dynasties, man. For me, it all started back with the Bulls dynasty. They never needed a traditional point guard. The last three titles they had, Jordan and Ron Harper were the point guard. Scottie Pippen was the point guard. That was the first time I looked at the NBA and thought to myself, okay, this is one of the greatest teams that ever existed, and they don't have a traditional point guard. The closest thing to that is BJ Armstrong, who's coming off the bench playing 20 minutes in a reserve role. You look at those Lakers teams, where the closest thing they had to a traditional point guard was Derek Fisher. But Derek Fisher was there almost more so to play defense and hit clutch threes. You look at just the Nuggets last year. Jamal Murray is not a traditional point guard. You look at any of the Warriors championship teams. Stephen Curry is not a traditional point guard. So when I saw that decision, which was made, and I had sources confirm to me, was made because they didn't like Spoons talking publicly about the fact that he thinks he deserves a guaranteed deal. The Warriors wanted to bring him back on a two-way deal. It would have been his fourth two-way deal. The previous CBA allowed a maximum of 4 two-way deals for a player before they're no longer eligible for two ways. So the Warriors, in their minds, they were like, Spoons, you're not getting a guaranteed deal. You're getting a two-way deal. And in some interview, I don't know if it was on TV or what it was, he publicly said, like, I feel like I'm good enough to get a guaranteed deal. He was just, it wasn't like a shot towards Kerr or the team. He was just, just expressing self-confidence. And the team didn't like hearing that. Gone. And to replace him for that reason was a flag to me, man. Because that smelled of ego and like, I don't know. I didn't like it. So that happened. And then they replaced him with Ty Jerome. And Ty Jerome, like the first game I saw him play, I think it was Summer League. And he like he had the dumbest turnover at the end of the game. And I remember seeing that going, oh my God, like I hope he's just a training camp invite, nothing more. And then he makes the team. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here? Ultimately, to me, like beyond that, like what really messed things up, and people could talk about the Draymond punch that clearly played a part. And to me, the part played was Draymond could no longer be his normal self after that because he spent a whole year just doing image repair, like just fixing a brand that got severely tarnished. But every Warriors title team relied strongly on depth. Like strength in numbers is an adage that to me rings very true, man. You look at just the 2022 team, for example, the end of the bench guys on most, which on most teams you're not going to see play. On the Warriors, it was like Damian Lee, who was playing big minutes. It was Juan Toscano-Anderson, who was playing big minutes. And the 15th man on the roster was James Wiseman, who we never saw because of injury. But the point is, Bielitsa was, and he was playing exactly, man. Gary Payton the second, Kuminga, Otto Porter Jr. Yeah. So that was a deep ass team, man. And they went from that to a team that suddenly was using Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb for 20 minutes a game. Like to me, that was a massive flag. For some reason, the Warriors decided we don't need the depth that we've relied on for every title. And that it cost them, man. I really believe that a combination of that and for some reason, Kerr just not having faith in his younger players, like not seeing Kuminga and Moody getting a consistent run, it cost them. And now this is where we are.
Yeah, man. Shout out to my comments, man. Make sure y'all hit the like button. We got 30 people in here. Hit that like button as y'all come in here. My man Tune In Sports said Ty Jerome will succeed with the Cavs. Shout out to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Tune In Sports, go follow my man. You know what I'm saying? Cavs faithful. We got my man, Cyrus Saatsaz.
It's all good. You can say it's all good.
I'm gonna say Mr. Cyrus. You know what I mean? All just say Mr. Cyrus. You know what I mean? He's with us, Locked On Warriors host, man. Great work he does over there. Go check him out. But recapping on what you said.
Thank you.
I went to go see the Warriors play the Rockets last season in person, right, in Houston, and the game was, I don't know if you remember, it was like one of the earlier season games, and they nearly lost that game in the fourth quarter, and I'm just like, what in the hell is happening to the Warriors? Defensively, that was the main thing. They kept saying they don't have no defense. And it wasn't like they couldn't play defense. It's the fact they weren't putting the effort on defense.
Yeah.
And so when you have that mixed in with the guys like Otto Porter Jr. not there, Gary Payton II not there, they still had Wiggins and Poole and all them, but they were kind of getting back in the sync of things. It felt like they're just going through jet lag. They're going off of, the championship last season. So when you start off with bad habits, okay, here comes, you got injuries coming now. Steph Curry missed time with injury. People forget about that. And then you pile up with, of course, the Jordan Poole, Draymond Green incident. That happened at the beginning of the season. That set the tone. Obviously, something was not clicking. The chemistry was not there. And I feel like, personally, Jordan Poole, because I know they got into it, I don't know if you can confirm this, but Jordan Poole got into an incident with Draymond in January. A second incident where I think that's what I was hearing. Did you hear anything about that?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you define incident. My understanding is like the Draymond was trying to smooth things over, and Poole was having nothing, didn't want to have anything to do with it. I don't know if there was like an incident per se, but my understanding is like Draymond was basically told to back off and just is that how you interpret it as well? I don't know. That's how I
want to say. So basically, kind of like uneasiness in the room. Like Draymond was trying to trying to fix things up, and then Jordan Poole obviously wasn't there. So the unfocus of Jordan Poole not being there for the whole season, I think, really impacted the Warriors because he just got a 4-year, $100+ million deal. So you expect him to come in and actually take the reins sooner or later and actually, evolve his game. Because, in the playoffs last year, in the Denver series, he was probably the best player in the series.
Yes, he was.
And then
One of them. Yeah.
And then you get a young guy because he's 24 years old coming in after an incident with that, like with Draymond Green. He's not mentally all the way there. It affected the Warriors. And then what you said with the young core versus the new blood, young core of Kuminga, Moody, Poole, and then you got Steph, Clay, and Draymond. I feel like Steve Kerr didn't fully put his investment into the young guys, whether that be because of the IQ, whether that be because, Klay Thompson, it was like the decision to put Klay on the bench and starting Poole. It was a lot of what ifs. And then, of course, Wiggins taking all that time off, that really affected them. So all
Big
that
time,
stuff,
dude. Big time. Yeah.
It's like, and I remember Steve saying this after the season. He said this was not a championship team, and I think it had a lot to do with just the chemistry, man. And then plus also they feel like they were playing catch up.
Yeah.
And they were never going to. They had to start with a new slate. But let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Speaking of let's get into the Poole Draymond situation. Do you feel like they made the right choice by letting go of Poole, or do you feel like they should let go of Draymond? What is your emphasis of that?
Well, if they got rid of Draymond, you're basically giving up on title hopes. Like the Warriors, they're not winning any of those 4 championships, and they're not winning any more in the immediate future without Draymond. I believe that firmly. I know Kerr has said that. Regardless of how you feel about Draymond as a person, and most people who take issue with him, you have a point. You're credible there. I mean, Draymond is not exactly a model of, a role model per se in terms of his behavior, but as a basketball player, he's exemplary, man. I mean, whether it's the defense, whether it's the high basketball IQ, whether it's him playing the point guard role offensively, which we didn't see much this last year, by the way, either. That's something I don't hear anyone talking about, which I think played a part as well. Like Draymond used to be a high usage ball handler, and that he took a step back in that role this year. I don't know what went into that. That's a whole other discussion. I haven't touched on much, but I do think ultimately they had to trade Poole, man, because Poole wasn't just Draymond that he had an issue with. He was rubbing Klay the wrong way. He was rubbing Steph the wrong way. And most of last season, like for example, that one game where Steph got ejected because he threw his mouthpiece into the crowd.
His mouthpiece, yep.
And he did that because he got frustrated from a Jordan Poole, like 30-footer, one of his many like crazy shots. Besides that incident specifically, though, like, I mean, he was like Steph was getting annoyed. Like Steph was like actually like spending energy trying to talk to Jordan Poole to teach him, and Poole wasn't listening half the time, man. So I think for chemistry purposes, they had to do that, dude. And not to mention defensively, he's such a liability, dude. Like the guy is a traffic cone. I don't doubt his offensive prowess, but his defense is a whole other issue. So I'm with you. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I do think he had to go. Now whether or not Chris Paul was the right trade, that's a whole other discussion. But yeah, I do think Poole had to go.
Yeah, I think somebody had to leave. And here's my thing about Poole. Like, I think when you talk about Steph, yes, I think he felt like he was arranging to Steph's level. Because I at some point it was gonna give to Jordan Poole when Steph left. So I feel like, being 24 years old, still being young, I mean, you're already getting a 4-year, $100 million+ deal. It's like your ego can get boosted up. It's unfortunate what happened. I don't think if that punch happened, then I don't think, Jordan, they wouldn't have a reason to move him. But since that did happen and how it did, they had to make a choice. And when Steve Kerr said, we're not a championship team without Draymond, I kind of already understood what was about to happen. So it is what it is. But let's since you talked about Chris Paul, let's talk about, the signing of him. What do you think? Did that help or did that hurt? Or what did you feel like that was?
I felt like when it first happened, my thought process was, if this is the first move toward the ultimate goal, awesome. If this is the only move, which is what it's looking like now, they might be in some deep shit. Can I swear on this show, by the way, or is this a PG show?
Hey man, you
all right,
can.
so they're in deep shit, man. They're in total deep shit if if this is all they do, because this Warriors team right now, to me, is going to go one of two directions this year. Either they're going to be the 2013 Lakers. Like, that's what that reminded me of. The team getting Chris Paul. To me, there was a striking resemblance to the 2013 Lakers when they went out and they got Steve Nash. They traded 2 first-round picks for him, for a 38-year-old Steve Nash. The Warriors didn't give up that much, but close.
Dwight
I mean,
Howard.
they kind of did, yeah. And they also got Dwight Howard, who clearly didn't have the mentality that Kobe wanted. But this team, to me, is either going to go that route where you're going to see Steph just work his ass off, just trying to keep this team alive. And ultimately it's going to fall short, or the other direction is we see a team, this Warriors team, go all in with Jonathan Kuminga, and Kuminga evolves and turns into a Kawhi Leonard type player. And then we see this team be more like the 2013 Spurs. So I guess we're ultimately, like, what I'm seeing with this Warriors team this year is a time machine going back 10 years, where we're either going to see the 2013 Lakers, and that's going to suck, or we're going to see the 2013 Spurs, and that's going to be freaking awesome, and they're going to be they're going to be champions again.
Yeah, man, that's definitely a great point. I didn't even think about that analogy, because I remember when they lost in 2012 against the OKC Thunder, and then they go 2013, they try to re-up and get all these players, but they're kind of above the hill. So there's a bunch of names, but the quality wasn't as good about 5+ years ago. If y'all coming in here, man, hit that like button. We got 32 people in here. My man Cyrus from Locked On Warriors is in the building. We can talk about Warriors talk right now, and we got some good comments right here. But let's go into something else, man.
Name it.
What is your
Jordan? Sorry, go ahead.
No,
and I get that for now. I get that for now, that it's a little outlandish comparing the two. But I do think Kuminga's potential is that high, man. I do believe in him. He just has to play, and he has to be in the right system. But I have faith. I don't know about you. Do you have faith in Kuminga?
I have faith in Kuminga. As far as his, he's being, was he 6'9"? Was he 6'9"?
6'8", like 6'8", yeah.
Okay,
6'7",
so
6'8".
I see the potential, because he's 21 right now. So Kawhi wasn't what he was until he got to about 24, 25. So
no, that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. Like the Spurs, when they won the title, that was Kawhi's 3rd year. And I think he was 22 at that point when he was Finals MVP. Kuminga is still 20. He's super young, dude. Like, he doesn't turn 21 until October. But you might be right. But do you think ultimately long term Kuminga can get to that level?
Well, that's another discussion, because I think Kawhi's, and this is coming from me because that's how me and Dom, I'm a Clipper fan. So Kawhi, I've been watching them since San Diego State. That's where he went to college at and everything like that.
Same.
So
Aztecs for life, dude. Hell yeah.
Oh, you Aztec? Hell
yeah, man. Hell yeah, dude.
Okay. Respect, man.
Right back at you, dude. Right back at you.
Yeah, but yeah, Kawhi, man, I think had he not gotten hurt, man, I think he would be the best player in the league right now.
Fair. That is fair. Kawhi Leonard without injuries is a beast of a basketball player. So I'm with you.
Yeah. So if Kuminga is that, I mean, that's some big shoes to fill. He would have to put in a lot of work, but I think Chris Paul signing with him, and I don't know if you saw Draymond Green say this on Paul George podcast, he said that CP is going to unlock Jonathan Kuminga.
I saw that. So I did see that.
I do see the potential in him, but I don't know if he's going to be Kawhi later on. But it's something to sight to see. Let me ask you another question, man.
Yeah, started distracting, man. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you good. You good. I like I talked about Steve about the draft picks, you know what I'm saying, of Pozinski and also Trace Jackson Davis. So kind of break down what your opinions of those 2 draft picks are. And as y'all come in here, hit the like button, you know what I'm saying? It's a great chat we got right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. So Podziemski, like the way I always tell people is when you see his name, even though it looks hard like mine, you just replace the D and the Z with a J. So it's Podziemski. That's how you pronounce it. It's look, man, when I was watching the draft and I saw Cam Whitmore like just plummeting, I started getting excited, dude, because I actually studied this year's draft pretty extensively. And what I knew about Cam Whitmore was this is a badass human being who may or may not have some issues depending on what certain scouts saw, but he was going to be a top 10 player. I mean, I saw some mock drafts where he was going top 5. When it got to like 18 and and I thought the Warriors could either get Jaquez or Cam Whitmore. I was ecstatic, dude. Like I thought that's where the Warriors were going. And then the Miami Heat drafted Jaquez. Is it Jaquez? I think that's how you pronounce his last name. And so I thought Cam Whitmore was going to be a Warrior, and I was pumped. And I was like, wow, how the hell did the Warriors get this guy at the number 19 pick? And then they go with Brandon Pajemski, a player who Mike Dunleavy Jr. reportedly had number 11 on his draft board. We saw in Summer League initially what these two players are, man. Cam Whitmore was the Summer League MVP. Brandon Pajemski was a player who was drafted largely for his shooting prowess. He was a 43 point something percent three-point shooter at Santa Clara, and we saw none of that shooting in Summer League. Now,
Right.
there isn't much to read into that because I believe Stephen Curry, when he was in Summer League, shot like 23% from three. It was like 23, 25, somewhere around there. So it's hard. You can't really read much into Summer League, but I wasn't overly impressed. So far what I've seen has not made me think, wow, the Warriors got like a steal with the number 19 pick. Like my initial impression is they got someone who maybe has decent court vision, who can handle, a point guard type role. But until I see that shot consistently falling, I'm not going to be super impressed. Now, Trayce Jackson-Davis, on the other hand, I don't know how the hell he lasted all the way up until the 57th pick, but the Warriors took advantage of the previous CBA, which had not kicked in yet because it wasn't July 1st. And the Warriors are officially going to be the last team in the NBA to ever buy a draft pick, and they used that loophole to get Trayce Jackson-Davis. And I'm ecstatic, dude. This is a kid. So there's this radio host in the Bay Area. His name is Damon Bruce, and I had him on the show I think a week or two ago. He's an IU guy, man. He's from Indiana. He went to school in Indiana. He watches every college basketball game. And I remember having a discussion with him some months ago because I thought Jalen Hood-Schifino was the steal from Indiana for this draft, man. And by the way, he looks good for the Lakers. He's going to be a good player. But I didn't know that much about Trayce Jackson-Davis. And all Damon was telling me was he's better than Jalen Hood-Schifino. I have another friend of mine who's not in the media, who went to Indiana, who watches Indiana games. He was telling me the exact same thing. Trayce Jackson-Davis is a baller. And then I learned early on he was Dale Davis's kid. And if you remember him, if you're old like me, like Dale Davis was a beast of a human being.
Indiana Pacers, yep.
Yes, dude. Like he was a power forward back when they really existed, man. Like in like the Karl Malone days. So when I learned all that and I heard all that, and then I see the Warriors draft him, yeah, I'm ecstatic. I'm like, wow, okay, so they got a big. And then I saw him in Summer League, and all his performance in Summer League did was substantiate my beliefs that this is a kid who could really play. So on one hand, remains to be seen with Pajemski. On the other hand, with Trayce Jackson-Davis, dude, the Warriors might have found their present and future big man. What are your thoughts? I'd love your thoughts as well, but that's what I think.
Definitely, bro. So I asked Coach about this too. I said, Pajemski being from Santa Clara, him being a guard, I don't know how much he's going to have of a window with Steph and Clay right there. It's hard to play guard position, get your feel in when you play next to those two players. I mean, you had Jordan Poole, who's obviously super talented. If he's having trouble finding his fit, what you think Pajemski's going to have to deal with his first couple years? So I don't think he's going to make an impact right away. I don't really like Summer League too much, only because of the competition you're playing up against is not going to be what you are in the NBA. Right. It doesn't really show anything to me. That's just my personal opinion. But I told Curtis, I said, for Trayce Jackson-Davis, y'all got to steal in the draft because me watching his highlights, first of all, playing Indiana, those players to me are probably the best players in the country because they actually know how to play basketball. They know how to actually think the game, high IQ, high skill set. So I think he just knows how to play the game. Playing for 4 years at Indiana also really helps his development really quick in the NBA. Yep. And he has an NBA body. And I think just his motor and just what he brings, because the Warriors are missing front court presence. You got Draymond, you got Kevin Looney, and you got Sargic, who came from the Phoenix Suns.
Right.
That's not enough. That's not enough meat.
Yeah, no.
To deal with Jokic and deal with, Karl Anthony Towns and deal with Domantas Sabonis and deal with him. Like those bigs, they're not going to have enough to deal with them in the front court. So Trayce Jackson-Davis, what he will do, he will run the floor. He's going to give effort. He can also, pass and roll to the basket. A lot like Draymond do. I kind of saw some Draymond in him.
Same.
So when I see that, I'm like, okay, maybe this guy Draymond can kind of, mold, Trayce Jackson-Davis a little bit. Maybe Chris Paul can actually give Trayce Jackson-Davis some alley-oops to the basket. Maybe, they can unlock something that, other teams just can't unlock. Same thing with Andrew Wiggins. So I like the pickup, and I like that he's been in the college team for 4 seasons, and I think that's going to really help with his development really quick.
Absolutely, man. And just to add to that, like the Warriors, when they've been successful in the NBA draft, it's almost always been with players who have spent like 3+ years. Klay Thompson was a 3-year player at Washington State. Steph was a 3-year player at Davidson. Draymond played all 4 years at Michigan State. So I'm totally with you, man. Like a lot of teams, I feel like whiff in the NBA draft because they draft for potential. Drafting with the hope that a player will turn into something. Whereas there's a lot of players out there that you can see exactly who they're going to be. And why not take someone who's proven already? So I'm with you 100%.
Shout out, man. And before we let people in, man, I got one more thing to ask you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, first of all, Steve Kerr's coaching? And do you think the Bob Myers departure is really going to hurt them going into next season?
Good. The second part especially is a great question. Look, Steve Kerr to me he was the right coach at the right time. I mean, if you're an old school Warriors fan who watched this team for decades be the modern day Wizards, right? Like in the 90s, 2000s, the Warriors and Clippers were the joke of the NBA, dude. Like people laughed at that team. They can never get free agents. The Clippers had a racist owner. The Warriors had an alcoholic, tax cheat of an owner. It was just a nightmare, man, for both teams. So, and if you remember those days, when Mark Jackson became the coach and everything started turning around immediately because they actually played defense for the first time in 40 years. You had an affinity for Mark Jackson, but even though it was a short stint, he couldn't get the job done. So Steve Kerr was clearly the right person for that moment, man. He was the right person to get the most out of these individuals like Steph, Klay offensively. His motion style offense clearly unleashed something in these individuals that wasn't there before. He maintained an emphasis on defense, with which Mark Jackson started. So I've obviously zero complaints about everything he's done, for the most part up until now. But last year was a concern, man. It was a lot of decisions that were nonsensical, a lot of decisions where I felt ego played a part in terms of just Steve Kerr feeling like he's like the emperor of this team. And if you speak out of turn, you're going to get punished for it. I sensed that kind of that attitude. I didn't like the way he managed Kuminga and Moody. Like those are two players who I feel should have been playing the whole year, and the Warriors would have been much better equipped in the postseason had they done that. He just hasn't proven to me he can develop young players ultimately. Like when you look at the entire Warriors history from the time he took over to now, Kevon Looney is probably the only example you could think of a Warriors player who was drafted and turned into someone decent. Everyone else that was drafted is just completely flailed. And Jordan Poole to a certain extent, but they had to trade him, so who knows? So with Kerr, for me, it's a mixed bag. It's like I wish he had a little less ego, where he'd be okay sometimes listening to criticism, and not taking it personally, which is the sense I get. If he plays Kuminga and Moody this year, I think everything's going to be fine. If those two are given a leash, if those two are given 25 minutes a night, I think they're going to be fine. If we see another pattern, the same pattern this year as last year, where all of a sudden, like whoever is the two-way player, like if we see Lester Quinones, who I love, actually, I think he's going to be a great player, but I'm just using that as an example. If we see like a two-way player again, getting minutes over Moody, you're going to have a problem, man. Like this team has to have Kuminga and Moody not only play, but play well if they're going to be successful this year. That's my belief. That's my opinion. So that's where I stand with Steve Kerr. It's one of those things where I feel like if he was more open-minded, he could get more out of his team. Excuse me. And then the Bob Myers thing, that's a tough one, man. Like some people kind of look down on him. I don't understand why that is. Some people, for example, give like Jerry West credit for a lot of the front office decisions when he was there, even though that was Myers' show. He was the one who gave final approval on everything. Myers was the assistant GM when Klay was drafted. Myers was the GM when Draymond, Harrison Barnes, Looney, Jordan Poole, and all these people were drafted. So Bob Myers to me, but it wasn't just the drafts, man. Like Bob Myers to me had this ingenuity, and a perfect case in point is the whole Kevin Durant era. Not only bringing Kevin Durant in, That's Bob Myers. Okay. Like, he has to get credit for that. But when Kevin Durant left, like, there was a potential there for the Warriors to just completely collapse on themselves, man. I mean, and what for Myers to turn Kevin Durant into Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga, that was a masterful stroke. I don't know if Mike Dunleavy has that in him, like, who knows? Maybe he does. So I'm kind of like holding off on judgment for now. I want to give him a year, see how he does with this roster. But besides, like, all these creative moves that Bob Myers did, like, look, because of him, Gary Payne II, Otto Porter Jr., like, all these free agents, the David West, Sean Livingston, like, that's all Myers, right? So losing him in that regard I think is gonna be big. The guy could sense talent, at least from a free agent perspective. He almost always drafted in like the 20s or 30s because of how good the Warriors were, and it's hard to have a good success rate when you're consistently drafting that late in the first round. But I think what it's going to hurt the most is going to be with Klay Thompson, because Klay Thompson is in a position now where he's going to be a free agent after this next season.
Right.
There's no chance in hell he's going to be paid the same amount he's getting paid now.
Nah,
Klay Thompson has pride, dude. Like, if you hear Steve Kerr talk about Klay, for example, he scoffs at anyone who suggests Klay Thompson comes off the bench. And at first I used to think it was because Kerr was maybe just out of step with reality in terms of the type of player Klay is now. But now I'm almost positive the reasoning is he doesn't want to offend Klay. Like, Klay in his mind, and it's a dangerous position to be in for a player of Klay's stature, dude. Like, when you start getting old and you're not as good as you used to be, but in your head you still think you're that good, that's dangerous. And Bob Myers was someone who could communicate with his players and maybe convince a player like Klay to stay on a drastic pay cut. I don't know if Mike Dunleavy Jr. has that same connection with the players, but regardless, man, I think it's a loss. He was a good dude. Now we'll see what happens. What do you think?
Man, eloquently put, man.
Thank you, brother.
Let's get them likes up, man. My man Cyrus from Locked On Warriors is in the building. We got some great comments. I know we got some great questions to come in. But before we get started, man, let me go ahead and go through like a little 2-minute commercial break. All right. And then we're going to be coming back and we're going to let people in. So everybody in here who's in the building, hit that like button, you know what I'm saying? Hit the Cash App, hit the share, hit the subscribe. We'll be back in 2 minutes, literally, okay? Right? Man. So for you guys who do not know, who are new to the show, man, we do ship badges available right now. We have 3 different types of badges: the pull-up badge, the clipper badge, and the interview badge. If you guys want more details, go onto our YouTube page, click on the top where it says join, Go onto your laptop or tablet. You cannot do it on your phone. Hit that button where it says join, and y'all can go and get y'all membership badges. We have a very special guest right now from Locked On Warriors, the famous podcast, my man, Mr. Cyrus. I dropped the link for you guys who want to come in here. So this is how it's going to go. If you guys are from Mr. Cyrus's show, and you guys want to have a chance, excuse me. Woo. Dry. If you guys want to have a chance to talk to Miss Dang.
Drink some water, man.
Yeah.
If you got it, there you go. All good. We've all been there, brother. It's okay. You got some interesting chats as well. Like Pagan 180 dropping the Jokic, the GOAT. The GOAT. How dare you? Yeah. Are you a LeBron or Jordan guy, man? What's your philosophy there?
I'm a Kobe guy.
Oh, all right. I like that wild card. I like that.
Yeah. So we dropped the link. If y'all want to come in here, make sure y'all hit the like button. If you have your membership badge, interview badge, you guys can come in and hit that link. If you guys are from Mr. Cyrus' show on Locked On Warriors, feel free to hit the link to ask Mr. Cyrus a question. Ask your question. We're going to keep it rolling. But is any comments you want to actually go to in the comment section, my guy?
Well, I just want to actually, I thought of Kobe, man, and Kobe to me is a perfect example of where the media can get it wrong so many times, dude. Like the fact that Kobe Bryant only has one MVP is a fucking crime. I'm sorry to drop an F-bomb there, but that is atrocious, dude. Like
I feel you.
Like Steve Nash stole that MVP that one. Like the year Kobe scored 81, he should have easily been MVP that year. And it's a crime. It's a crime that he only got one. Look, he did not have the attitude that media wanted from their superstars. It's also a huge reason why I think Rick Barry and I get along great. Like Rick Barry and Kobe had very similar mentalities where they just cared about winning. All they cared about was dominating on the court. And why should that not be the case, man? I mean, you're playing basketball. The goal, it's a competition. The goal is to win. The goal is not to just go out there and have fun. That's what the playground is for. And dude, Kobe had that mentality, dude. I know we called the Mamba mentality, and I still maintain the day he died, dude, this world has never been the same. Like the pandemic started right after that. It's still never been the same, dude. So I love the Kobe love is what I'm trying to say.
For sure. So we got our first guest, you know what I'm saying? Warriors faithful and Clippers faithful, you know what I'm saying? My man, Bruce, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Hey, man. How you doing?
Is this Bruce Morrow?
Exactly. This is
great
Bruce
talking to you, man. Great to talk to you, brother. Great. This is awesome.
Yes. I've been on Twitter and your comments.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity, BJ, and welcome, Cyrus. And by the way, guys, subscribe to Cyrus' channel. That's one of the greatest podcasts on YouTube.
Thank you. Thanks, Bruce. It's very kind of you. That's the Bruce has been so supportive. Like I'm just stoked that we're talking, man. So great to finally chat with you.
Yeah. All right, no problem. So with Chris Paul seemingly looking like I'm not coming off the bench, do you think that Klay Thompson could be coming off the bench and Steph Curry go to the 2? Because if Klay Thompson was struggling a bit last season, especially during the playoff.
I heard a certain radio personality, I won't say his name, but uttered that ridiculous suggestion that Steph comes off the bench. I don't think there's a chance in hell that is happening. It's one thing to do it for a few games in a playoff series. It's another thing to make it a permanent decision. Klay Thompson, as we talked about, Bruce, is such a prideful individual. It is weird, man. And you two can obviously jump into this, but it is weird how some players take that starting role so seriously. Like they consider it to be like an insult if you even suggest bringing them off the bench. I mean, Chris Paul has never once in his career come off the bench, and so this is going back to his rookie year. And we saw that clip from a week or two ago where a reporter brought it up. And you would think he would reply with some sort of diplomatic response, like, well, I'll do what's best for the team or whatever. But no, his first response was, are you the coach? It was like, he was just combative and he was just like, did not want to entertain the notion. It is bizarre, dude. What do you guys think is going to happen? I think that's a weird
Bruce, that's all you, Bruce. That's all you.
To me, I think Klay Thompson should come off the bench.
Well, it's one thing to say should, but what do you think is actually going to happen? I agree with you. He should come off the bench. I agree.
I think Chris Paul is gonna have to swallow his pride because Klay Thompson is like a warrior, lifetime warrior. So they're not gonna bench him for Chris Paul. But
agreed. And plus, I mean, if the goal here is to get an optimal output from your team, Chris Paul needs to be your sixth man. Like, he needs to lead that second unit because that was a huge problem they had last year. And I do love the fact that Draymond referenced that. By the way, Draymond today on tomorrow's Locked On Warriors, we're gonna touch on this, but I guess Draymond was on Patrick Beverley's podcast and talked about Jordan Poole. Did you see those clips? I've not heard these yet.
I did not see it though. I did not see the Jordan Poole part.
Yeah, new same. So I'm very excited to hear that and then talk about it tomorrow. Bruce, where are you from, by the way, man? What's the accent?
I'm from Haiti.
Nice.
Yes.
You. All right. How was life in Haiti?
There's no real life. It's chaotic.
Well, at least you have electricity and internet, so that's something. But that's
crazy. No, I'm not in Haiti right now. So.
Oh, okay, but you're from there. Okay, gotcha.
Yes,
all right.
I'm from there, but I go visit, but I duck when I go there. I just duck. Yes,
that's crazy.
Yeah, so I think Chris Paul coming off the bench would be better for him, and he'll be more fresh for the playoff. And what I'm worried about is every time there's a playoff, he's always injured. That's why when I was watching the Clippers, when he was on the Clippers, I already know the postseason is gonna get injured.
Well, that's a great topic. So that's a great topic, and it's a very valid concern as well. I had Nirav Pandya. He's an MD who does a lot of media work covering sports injuries, right? And so he's kind of become like this media personality talking about injuries for the Warriors and so forth. And so I had him on Locked On Warriors to bring up that exact point. Like, and what I asked Dr. Pandya was whether or not Rick Celebrini, who heads the medical staff for the Warriors and who's done an exemplary job, by the way, Rick Celebrini was tasked with keeping Otto Porter Jr. healthy 2 years ago. That was a big task, man. The biggest reason why OPJ was out of the league was because of his left foot never healing properly, always being injured. And he put Otto Porter Jr. on a very strict regimen. He couldn't play more than 25 minutes a game. That included the postseason. And I remember fans being a little frustrated by that because of how good Porter Jr. was. But they stuck to that regimen. It worked. He stayed healthy. And I asked Dr. Pandya if that was going to be the mentality from Celebrini's staff with Chris Paul. Because those concerns are incredibly valid, man. He can't finish a year. He's always hobbled by the end of it. And that Dr. Pandya said that's exactly what he envisions Rick Celebrini is going to be doing this year. That Chris Paul will be on a strict regimen. There will be a year-long plan for him for that entire reason, so that when it comes time to the postseason, when it really counts, Chris Paul will be available. And that's all we can hope for.
Well, we could take it a good sign that Otto Porter Jr., as soon as he left the Warriors.
Yep, exactly. The moment he left, he got hurt again. I shouldn't laugh at that, but it's true. Yeah. Yeah.
But last thing, I just wish that the Warriors sign Christian Wood, but I don't think they have enough money for that. So because I think they still need another big.
Well, they got two open spaces, and Christian Wood, there was a report a few days ago that not one team has offered him a penny over the veteran minimum. That's a good sign. That is a good sign. That means the Warriors are in play. Look, I would love Christian Wood. I think if either Christian Wood or JaVale McGee, if either of those two comes to the Warriors, it's a game changer, man. Because I don't know if what you guys feel in terms of the team's strategy this year, facing a team like the Nuggets, like the Lakers, these bigger teams. You're going to have to throw bodies at Jokic, right? Like that is my biggest concern is how are the Warriors going to beat the Nuggets this year? Kevon Looney has shown he can't do it. You can't have Draymond Green playing 4 quarters of defense on Jokic. Foul trouble, exhaustion are going to come into play. And I don't know if Trace Jackson Davis is the answer. Dario Saric is not necessarily known for his defense. So I'm with you. I do think the Warriors need one more quality big. I would love Christian Wood. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll keep going to your comments. Try to
Bruce,
be funny.
If I can ever convince Locked On to let like callers or people to come on like this, I will do so. Okay. I've been talking to him about that because I want listeners of my show to do what's going on now. I love this, man. Nice talking to you, by the way.
No problem. I'll be your own whenever I can.
Brother, thank you.
All right. Later.
All right, Bruce.
Later, Bruce.
Hey,
Good
and
stuff,
I want
man.
to
That was
also
good
bring this up too. Yeah, Bruce is the man, man. Bruce is he's the man. But I wanted to bring this up too. If Chris Paul starts with Steph, that's like a small ass backcourt too.
Yes.
That's you're 6 foot. What's Steph 6'3", Chris Paul 6 feet. That you will get destroyed on the other side of the ball.
And they're exhausted. Like, dude, I'm all about like trying to make life as easy as possible, right? Like, how are you making life easy on your team when your backcourt, who you're relying on most of your points for, has to play defense against much bigger dudes? I'm totally with you. That is not a feasible plan to have a Chris Paul, Stephen Curry starting backcourt. That's weird to me.
Yeah, man. Denver, and also Denver is given because they're so balanced. They're so balanced because now you got Jokic. Not like a couple years ago when Jokic didn't have Murray there. Like he has his full team now, and then you got Aaron Gordon at 6'8", and you got Michael Porter Jr. at 6'10". He doesn't play like a big, but that's still a big body right there. That's a lot of 6'8" guys and up, which the Warriors just don't have. So it's going to depend on the development of Trace Jackson Davis, the defense of Draymond Green, and also we don't know what we're going to get from Saric. So I just think the Warriors, they have to, like you said, they have to get another piece to deal with Denver.
Yeah.
So, let's see. We got some more comments. You know what I'm saying? Also, hit the like button as y'all come in here. We have my man Cyrus from Locked On Warriors. He was gracious enough to come on the podcast today. Go on and subscribe to his channel right now. All my people on my audience. If you guys want to come in here and ask Mr. Cyrus a question, I dropped the link for people who do have their interview badge. They're more than welcome to come in. People that have come from Locked On Warriors onto this podcast, you guys can come in as y'all want to. But let me see if we got some other questions in here before y'all see. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of different questions.
It's all over the place. It is. I'm with you. Like Pagan 180 asked, for example, like, is it too late for Christian Wood to learn how to play defense? No, no. And just to add to that, like in the NBA, when it comes to successful defense, it is not about the individual; it's about the team. Steve Kerr is fortunately like cognizant of that. Now Jordan Poole didn't buy in, and Jordan Poole is also 6'4". So if you're small and you're not buying in, you are a massive defensive liability. Someone like Christian Wood, all you have to do is get him to buy in, and that 6'9", 6'10" frame with that 7'3" wingspan, whatever it is, that will turn into a massive weapon for you. So I know Christian Wood can absolutely be a positive, someone who can help you defensively. It just takes coaching. All it takes is coaching and you know, and having teammates like Draymond, like Steph and Clay and Wiggins to help that individual buy in. And if they do, you're stoked. Christian Wood is a talent, dude. I don't know what you think about him, but if you maximize that, you are stoked.
Yes, you are. And how do you feel about the development team of the Warriors? How you feel about that, like developing players?
Well, I mean, the Kuminga thing we have to see, right? Kuminga, I love Moody. Like, I'm still shocked that Moody, you know, DNP'd as many games as he did last year. You know, he got sent to Santa Cruz again. I thought Moody was ready, man, and he showed that in the postseason. He was playing some big minutes. And
he got sent back to the G League. He got sent back to the G League
last year. Yeah, he got. I think it was like 18 or 19 games, or maybe that's how many he missed, but some of those were in Santa Cruz. Yeah, he played in Santa Cruz last year, and I'm not opposed to that as an idea. I mean, it doesn't hurt if you're just sitting on the bench rotting away, but he should not be sitting on the bench rotting away. You know, So we'll see. I do know the Warriors made some changes with their development process, and someone a good guest idea for you if you ever want to interview someone about the Santa Cruz side of things. Hold on, she writes for Anscape. I'm brain finding on her name. I'll get you her name in a second.
But let me know through email. Yeah, just hit me up through email.
Deal.
And DiVincenzo, what do you think about the loss of him too?
Expected. It was a bummer, but I was telling people on the show since late last year, like this is just a one and done. Like they have no chance of keeping him. I mean, he got a lot of money from New York. Good for him. It's gonna suck, but you got Chris Paul and you got Corey Joseph. I think you replace them okay with that. I think
for sure. My man Bubba, Philadelphia 76er fan, you know what I'm saying, for life, you know what I mean? We got a good guest for you. Get ready for your question. What's good, Bubba?
Salute, BJ. Salute, Cyrus. How
man?
you say the last name again?
Saatsaz.
Okay, there you go.
It's an awful name.
But in the beginning of the show, you were kind of saying something about the point guard position not being as important. Like, why do you feel that way? Because I know a lot of people are going to disagree with you.
Oh, they do. They still do, man. Because again, look at all the recent title winning teams. Which one can you think of that had a traditional point guard, right? Like that led them to a title. Like it can get you far, but I can't think of any, man. To me, it's a position that you need in college and high school because of just how weak so many of the players are. You need someone who can settle the other four players on the floor. You need someone who can execute what the coach is running. When you get to the NBA, if you can't handle the ball at that level, you're not going to play in that league. It's just scoring and defense are the two skill sets that are most important to me. If you're just a ball handler, if your skill is passing, great, man, go play in China. That's not NBA level ball to me. So I don't know. Does that make sense to you or no? But by the way, is Embiid available? Is he going to get traded?
I think he's staying. I don't think he's leaving.
Okay.
But with the point guard thing, if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, when they had Eric Bledsoe, you know what I'm saying, they were getting far, but they couldn't get over the hump. Once they traded him and got Drew Holiday. Now, Drew Holiday is not the best player on the team, but he was able to feed Giannis, feed Chris Middleton, even Brook Lopez. He was able to feed them. So, would you think that somebody can use this to kind of counter what you're saying, or do you think that?
Here's the thing with Drew Holiday. Like Drew Holiday, to me, I don't picture as being like this traditional point guard. Like traditional point guard to me is someone more like Chris Paul, like a Steve Nash, like someone who just really is focused on assists. Drew Holiday is so good defensively. That to me, that's his value. Like I know he's a solid ball handler, but I know he's a decent scorer. But if Drew Holiday doesn't play that level of defense, his value is not there. Like they don't win a title that one season if he's not bringing it on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think they won because of what he brings as like a dribbler. Does that make sense? Or because of how he is as a passer. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say when I talk about traditional point guards is passing and ball handling to me are just not nearly as important as scoring and defense is. So if your point guard can score and play defense, sign me up. But if they can't do those two things at an exceptional level, I'm not interested. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I actually agree with you because me personally, I would say that the reason why it's not very needed in today's game is because we're moving into positionless basketball, and a lot of the guards are trying to be as versatile as possible. Because if you take a look at point guards like Darius Garland and a few others, like they play the point guard position, but in reality, they're actual shooting guards. You know what I'm saying? They look to score more than they look to pass. So that's what I would say. But in today's NBA, I would say that the most important position is the wing position. If you look at guys like a Tatum and, a few other guys that can actually bring the ball up the court, run the offense, and also play defense and grab rebounds as well. And that's what I would say.
Agreed. No, I'm totally with you. And like AC, for example, I've heard that people say that what he wrote, which is that a lack of ball handling is why the Celtics lost. I do not agree with that notion at all, man. Like to me, like they didn't lose to the Warriors because they were missing Brogdon. Like I don't think that was the missing piece. Gallinari was a missing piece. Like Gallinari could have made a huge difference. He was injured this last year, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I just like that's why when I saw Moses Moody getting benched time and time and again, while Ty Jerome was getting 20 minutes a night, I was losing my shit over that, dude. It just it made no sense. It just did not make any sense, and the results showed. They won 44 games last year, so that's just me, though, man. That's me. I don't know.
Okay, my next question is: with the Warriors as currently constructed, do you think they're a big threat in the West?
The Warriors?
Yeah.
If Kuminga turns into Kawhi Leonard, yes.
Say that again.
If Jonathan Kuminga turns into the next great thing, yes. Like here's how I look at the Warriors this year. They're either going to be a team from 10 years ago. They're either going to be the 2013 Lakers, a team that's past their prime and bringing more old people in is not what's going to solve things. Or they're going to be the 2013 Spurs, a team that was old, but they also had Kawhi Leonard emerge and turn into a future Hall of Famer. If Jonathan Kuminga takes that next step, and I have faith in Moses Moody. I saw someone in the chat say that he lacks that dog in him. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think if those two guys emerge, and especially if Jonathan Kuminga turns into the next great thing, they can absolutely compete with the best of them. But if Jonathan Kuminga's minutes are still jerked around, if Jonathan Kuminga just doesn't turn into a great player, I think they're screwed. I really do. That's my opinion.
Well, you think he deserves minutes on this Warriors team? Like really 20, 25 minutes?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Big time, man. Yeah. Do you think so or no?
Yeah, I think so too. I really think so. Especially at the small forward position, I think he could be a great wing player, in my opinion. Now he needs to develop his ball handling skills and his overall IQ to the game. I feel like he's young, so he's not really clever and that intelligent on the basketball court. I mean, I
don't know. What do you base that on though? Because he doesn't turn the ball over much. I've talked to former pros who have watched him, and they all actually think his basketball IQ is off the charts. One of the first compliments I heard about Kuminga when he came into the league was that he has a great feel for the game. So what makes you think his IQ is low?
I think, me personally, I would say when to pass and when to actually score the basketball or shoot the basketball, because I see many times that he wants to, jump out the jump. I mean, he's very athletic. Nobody's going to take that away from him. But sometimes I think that him trying to get to the basket, it would be better to pass off a great look for a better look into the corner for a wide open three.
Great call. And that's where, and what my hope is with Kuminga, you're absolutely right. I do agree with you there, is that's where experience comes in. That's where if he needs time to learn and figure out through experience when he should attack. Like, to me, Kuminga, there were moments last year. There was like one road game, I think, in Utah where Kuminga, you saw it. Like, we were all watching this game, and in front of our eyes, Kuminga just kind of realized, holy shit, no one can stop me. Like, he was backing dudes down. He's got a fantastic left. Which is something that a lot of players kind of develop later in their careers. He already has that dialed. He's got a great post-up game. There was that one game really stuck out because he realized that, like, if I just really turn it up to 100 and I'm just attacking the paint every time, no one can stop me. Now, granted, when you get to that mode and other teams start doubling you, that's where you got to start passing the ball. Right. But Kuminga's not there yet, because the very next game, he just turned that switch off and he started being passive. He started deferring. So he hasn't nailed down like the timing aspect of it in terms of like when he should be attacking, when he should be passing. That's experience. Experience is the solution for that. And he'll get there. I really think he does, but I totally agree with you too.
Wait, do you think he has to actually get on the court to learn those, or you feel like?
And that's what I was just about to jump in there, because the way I watch Kuminga play is like he don't want to mess up. It's kind of like how Terrence Mann is with the Clippers. So I think what Kerr has to do is give him a little bit longer of a leash. So I think that's more so. Once you do that and they put that faith in him, that's why I think Chris Paul is going to be so big for Kuminga.
Agreed.
Because
there's an old adage in teaching. It's called learn as you do. And it's the most effective methodology for teaching. It's how anyone gets excellent at their craft. You just got to do it. And Pagan, I don't agree with that, man. Kuminga last year was a 38% three-point shooter. He was a 53% field goal shooter overall. I think his shot is fine. He's actually got a clean stroke. I compare it to Jimmy Chidwood in the movie Hoosiers. It's very similar form. And if you watch his clips from this offseason, now look, I know everybody can make a phenomenal YouTube clip of themselves, but he's been working really hard in his handling and his shot release, which has gotten faster. So to me, it's all about him just playing, man. He's got to get out there, and he's got to have the faith of his coaching staff, where if he makes mistakes, he's not worried about Kerr pulling him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just got to be able to play. And I think if he does, you'll see results. I really do.
Right. Here's my final question. When the Warriors play a team that has a dominant big man, what do you think the strategy should be to guard him? Because I remember when the Sixers played the Golden State Warriors and Embiid had like 44. For the most part, he was getting fouled. He shot like 24, 25 free throws, but he was getting fouled because, they couldn't really guard him. They couldn't do anything with him. So, and in the West, you had big men like, Sabonis. I know people not going to give him that, but I mean, I give him a top 10 big man in the league. You have Sabonis, you have Jokic, and you have a few others. What do you think should be the best way to kind of contain them? I mean, you can't guard them, obviously. What do you think would be the best thing to kind of slow them down?
Well, I've always said that the only player in the NBA that Draymond Green cannot stop is Joel Embiid. And the two reasons for that is, one, obviously size. Even though Draymond is a ridiculously powerful individual for someone his height, Joel is his dude. I mean, Joel is just a very large, very strong human being, but Draymond's edge often comes in terms of the mental battle. He's just one of the most mentally tough dudes out there. You can't trash talk him. You can't. Whereas he'll say little things in a game that we're missing oftentimes that does get in other people's heads. You can't do that with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid will just shake it off. He'll laugh. He's the one player that Dre cannot stop, man. And that's why every time the Warriors play Philly, it's always such a tough game for him, in my opinion. So that's a great question, dude. I don't know what they're going to do with Jokic. I don't know what the plan is, dude. I'm very curious to see what Kerr's decision is on that. Kerr also needs to hire another assistant too, because John Mamala left for the Raptors, and he was the defensive coordinator last year. So I don't even know what the plan is there right now. They haven't replaced him yet.
All right, man. I appreciate you for answering all my questions,
yeah,
and I'm gonna definitely sub to the channel Locked On Warriors.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
Hopefully you'll love it.
Locked
nice
On
starting
Warriors. Yes, sir.
All right. I appreciate you, Cyrus.
Appreciate you.
And for those who have not already saw the link, my co-host Rick put it right there in the comment section. If y'all want to subscribe to Locked On Warriors to go support my man Cyrus, great content over there is right there in the link section. Y'all can click that link and subscribe today. But we have our beautiful moderator, Hope. How you doing, Hope? You got a question? She's also a Warrior fan too.
Love it. Are you the person that I DM back and forth with on Twitter?
No, but you can be.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry about that. There's someone named Hope that I DM back and forth with sometimes. Sorry about that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just got one question. My one question is, would you take Steph over LeBron?
In terms
and
of
why?
What do you? Can you be more specific? Like,
do you think Stephen Curry is a better player than LeBron James?
Here's what else. If it came down to like a game 7, and I had a choice of 2 teams that have 4 players on it, and you're asking me, do you want your 5th player to be LeBron or do you want it to be Steph for this game 7? I'm going to go with Steph. I mean, shooting to me wins out. LeBron's older, but if you're talking about the overall like GOAT like ranking type thing, I would sound like such a homer if I said Steph over LeBron. That would be such a homer take. I can't do that. But I think in a 1-game situation, man, Steph has that killer mentality, dude. Like I grew up watching Jordan and I grew up watching Kobe, obviously. LeBron to me doesn't have that killer, like, I will murder you just to get a win type mentality. I think Steph, even though he doesn't look the part, he has that mentality. Like he has that, I'm willing to literally slit your throat and watch you bleed out to death just so I can get one more win in the win-loss column. So I'm going to go with Steph in that regard. What do you think? What about you?
Of course, Stephen Curry all day, every day.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
But that's all I wanted to ask.
Did I disappoint you with that answer? I don't. What are your thoughts?
No, you didn't.
Okay. Well, I'm happy then. Thanks. Nice to meet you, Hope. Nice chatting with you. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, man. She's Steph Curry all day, man. But I have, because we had to also talk about the point guard situation. So now this is what I will say. I believe the traditional point guard has faded away, but I do think that there's a certain situation you do need it when you have 2 dominant wings. So if you look at a team like Chicago, they've been missing Lonzo Ball for the last season. They actually fell off. When they had Lonzo, he was healthy the year before they were number 1 seed in the East. Take a team like us, the Clippers. Kawhi and PG are 2 dominant wings. They have a trouble of who's going to score, who's going to put the ball in the basket. You add Russell Westbrook, you actually get a guy who can actually set the table and get the ball and get more shots in transition. Boston kind of have the same thing with us, 2 dominant wings, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. I think Brogdon was brought there to somewhat be somebody that can actually help with that. Now, I don't think he's on the level of those 2 guys I mentioned, but I do think a traditional point guard is useful when you have 2 dominant wings. I mean, how you feel about that?
I mean, it just all depends. I'm not like 100% opposed to traditional point guards, but if you're not like a lights out, if you're not a playmaking scorer, and if you're not giving me something defensively, if all your role is just to set up the other 4 dudes on the court and be someone who is not going to turn the ball over in the process, I feel like your 5-man lineup is one short in terms of having an edge over the other team. You now have one guy that the other team can attack, and you have one guy that the other team can slack off on in terms of defense. That's a liability, man. Like, and again, that you know, and so that's why, like, when I look at the Celtics, like, I don't think that's the reason why they've lost games, is because they've been like, Marcus Smart was not a bad point guard. First of all, Marcus Smart can handle the ball perfectly fine. Marcus Smart's a solid passer. You know, and he was on the team. They're fine. I just don't think that ball handling is important enough when you get to like the ultimate level, which is the NBA.
Right.
I think you need to bring more, but that's just me, you know. And I'm not saying there's like no room for it, but we saw last year, for example. Again, like, a lot of people would argue with me when I was going off about Ty Jerome because his minutes were driving me insane, and I'm sitting there watching Moses Moody just rot away in the bench. To me, that was like a no-brainer. If you're going to pick between Ty Jerome and Moses Moody, just because Moses Moody may not have the same ball handling skills as Ty Jerome doesn't mean that it's going to be a detriment if he's out on the court instead of Ty Jerome. Like all you got to do is bring the ball up the court to the other side. And that's not an assignment that like most NBA players can't handle. And then from there, it also depends on the offense you run too, though. Like, if you're a pick and roll team, for example, maybe you do need like a better point guard than, say, an offense like the Warriors, where it's all motion. You're not really like dribbling the ball, playing ISO that much. You're just all about moving the ball until you find the most optimal scoring opportunity. And you don't really need like this exemplary point guard to pull that off. I always look back again to the Chicago Bulls of the 90s. They never needed it. They were like the greatest team ever. You look at the Warriors, any of their 4 titles, man. Like, Sean Livingston was the closest thing to a traditional point guard, but he was also 6'8". So he gave you length and height defensively that at least gave you an edge there. To me, it's like, if you're like Jalen Suggs, forget, I don't want him on my team. Like, I don't want a Jalen Suggs type, man. I want someone who can score and or play a significant defense on top of everything else. But that's just me, you know.
No, that's a good point. And I'm, you know, it's an ongoing conversation, man. And I actually love, because me, like, I play ball, so it's like I'm more of a actual scoring point guard. I'm not even a facilitator.
There you go.
I like to put the ball in the basket.
But it's different. Yeah. But it's different.
So,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like it also depends. Like, if you're in college or in high school, where like you're not everyone is probably like a super solid ball handler. Not everyone has the mentality to just, you know, hold their own. Like, those levels of play, I do see the value in a point guard tremendously, man. You need someone to kind of steady things and run your offense. I'm just talking NBA. At the NBA level, everyone is so damn good that, like, I just personally would not place weight on a player if all they're bringing me is passing and ball handling. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not enough for me. Like, Steve Nash was good because he could at least score when necessary, but even still, he never won a championship, never got to the finals. There's a reason for that, you know? But that's me. This is all subjective. And where do you play where do you play in San Diego? Like, where's your spot?
So I played high school, played college in Texas at Texas San Antonio.
Wow.
Played overseas in Asia.
Wow. So you played. Okay. All right.
Yes. Semi-pro, San Diego. I played for a team called the San Diego Kings for 2 years. And I had an offer to go play in Dubai right after COVID hit. I would have went over there, been playing, but they shut the league down. So,
damn,
yeah, man, I have a little resume.
So is that part of, like, when you cross paths with Kerr in San Diego, is it at gyms? Like, are you seeing him there, or like, is that how you met?
So I actually saw Kerr literally because I live 20 minutes from where he stays, and I was just in the area. There's like a little area where people walk around and chill. So of course Kerr's over there is like looking like, you know, no one really cares because, you know, they don't really look at Kerr like that. He's like a regular.
No one in San Diego cares about anything. So
yeah, so I'm like looking, I'm like, bro, that's like Steve Kerr. And I'm like, nah, that can't be him. Had these black sunglasses on, he's chilling, sitting down. I walk up to him and make a conversation real nonchalant. Nothing like, because, you know, you've been around so many celebs, it's kind of normal. So I got a chance to, you know, be around him, talk to him a little bit. We sat for 10 minutes and I told him the podcast and all that stuff, man. He had to go and leave like within 10 minutes. And then I'm still sitting down in the chair, not even thinking nothing of it. He comes, walks back. He's like, hey, you know, if you want me to be on your podcast, I would love to come on sometime.
Wow. Wow.
Just because of the conversation we were having,
I
I
watched
think
that
he
whole
comes
thing,
off.
dude.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, I watched that whole thing, dude. It was awesome.
yeah, man. What'd you think of it?
I loved it. I loved it. I was like, I mean, the whole time I'm thinking, like, who are these guys? Like, how did they get Kerr? Because everyone wants to interview Kerr, and he's really shut himself off in recent years. I meant, like, right after that interview, I reached out to the Warriors and I was like, dude, is Kerr doing interviews? I want him on my show. What's going on? And I never heard back. So,
Yeah.
dude, no, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And dude, good job, man. Oh, great job. Yeah,
Man, definitely.
really
We
cool.
I gotta definitely come on your show, man, because like I said, I definitely love, Clippers are my team, but I also respect the Warriors so much, man. So you gotta get me and my host on your show sometime.
Hell yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, dude. Here's how I feel like it would work best is when the season rolls around and, like, let's say we got Warriors Clippers coming up. If Clippers are like the team you follow the most intently, I feel like that would be the perfect show. It's just to bring you on to, enlighten my audience on how the Clip show is doing. How is it? How do you feel about your Clips, by the way, dude? Like they're in a weird place. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I had somebody in the comments ask the question about Kawhi and PG getting traded. So what's happening from what I'm hearing is they're gonna roll it for one last season, and depending on, they have to make it to the finals. They can't have something less than the finals, or else they're gonna probably blow it up. If somebody gets hurt or they underachieve, they're gonna end up blowing it up at some point because the arena comes literally next season. But it's people are on so much edge because you gotta think they've been together for 4 years, going on 5. 2 of the postseasons, Kawhi have not been healthy, and I feel personally, if Kawhi was healthy at least 1 or 2 of them seasons, we would have had a championship by now. That's just me, in my opinion.
That's right. I respect Kawhi that much, dude. Kawhi Leonard scares me. Like when the Warriors play the Clippers. So I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
So who else would you like to watch besides, the Warriors? Because since you're a fan of the Warriors team, who else do you like to watch around the league?
Ooh, that's a great. That's a great question. Who's high in my league pass? Your Clippers are a fun team to watch. When Zion Williamson is healthy, I absolutely love watching that dude play just because he's a freak, dude. There's never been anyone else like him who's that body type, that style. He's so like round, and not necessarily like in a fat way, like in a chubby way. But he's just so like he has so much mass that like all he has to do is just throw his body in you a little bit, and people are just bouncing, dude. Like he does whatever he wants out there. So yeah, I would say probably like the Clippers are a fun team to watch. The Pelicans, when Zion is healthy, is a really fun team to watch. I'm really curious to see the Suns this year. The whole point guard thing actually came up. I brought it up on Locked On Warriors today because the Suns made the announcement that Bradley Beal is going to start, and he's going to basically be their point guard. And I love that decision. I thought that was the absolute way to go because now all 5 of your players on that court are bringing something to the table in terms of scoring, and that's huge. So yeah, I guess those teams. I'm trying to think of anyone else. Like the Sixers, I'm very curious what they're going to do now with this Harden news. Like, do you want Harden on the Clippers?
No, and the reason why I don't, because my thing is with Harden, and Bubba can agree, the one that was just up here.
Yeah,
Harden, it's like you already left. You left Houston. You leave Houston because you said you weren't, getting what you need in Houston. Okay, fine. You go to Brooklyn. Go with the whole Kyrie, KD situation. You leave there, okay, fine. Now you're in Philly with the MVP, and you're with a team that can possibly win if you just play at a certain level. You and Embiid. Now you want to leave that situation, and we don't even want to know why. And the reports are just he wants to be in LA with the Clippers. But I'm like, who gave you the pass to come with the Clippers as if you're that guy? Like, you don't even make it work with the team that you've been with. Like, you can't be coming over here making demands. And so get this. The reason why the Clippers are not pulling the trigger is because apparently Daryl Morey wants Terrence Mann, which hell no, we're not giving up Terrence Mann. We're not giving him up.
I wouldn't either.
Since that's the case, it's like you're not coming here and we're gonna give up Terrence Mann. And my thing with Harden is, what would he be over here? We already got Westbrook, we got Kawhi, we got PG, we got enough offense. You don't play any defense. You're durable through the season, but through the playoffs, you're kind of like somebody that kind of drops down. I just don't see why would we get James Harden on the team.
I mean, I feel like Westbrook would have to be an afterthought if you did that, but I totally hear what you're saying, man. I would never like be excited about Harden, but I will say this though, if they do make that trade and they don't give up man or anyone consequential, your team is damn good, dude. I mean, you'd have to be like a favorite or one of, like, because even though regardless of what Harden's issues are, he still is a great basketball player, even though you're right, defensively he's a total liability. But I would just be curious to see how Kawhi and Paul George would play with him on the court. You know, like I'd be excited to watch that. You know,
Yeah,
but I also hear what you're saying. I totally hear what you're saying too. I would not give up Terrence Mann I wouldn't give up anyone of importance for him. But if you get him for free or for scraps,
Yeah, I think he would be good for us for as far as the season. And I think what he will do for Kawhi and PG, he is a great playmaker. I will give him that. Out the pick and roll, out the pick and pop. He does, you know what I'm saying? But also he slows the pace down. What I like about Westbrook is he gets them up and down, which we need more transition points. Yes,
True.
the boneheaded turnovers drive me crazy. I'm yelling at the TV. I'm throwing stuff at the TV. I'm like, what are you doing? But at the end of the day, like, because of his effort and how much he plays hard for the team, he's all about, you know what I'm saying, sacrifice, which I found that out this season. Is like, I'm cool with what we have. We just have to be healthy. If Kawhi Leonard is healthy, if Paul George is healthy, I'll take that against anybody.
Nice. Yeah, and for that price, bravo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we got a little bit more time left. We got to let Mr. Cyrus go, man. If y'all have any comments, please come into the link. Hit that chat, man. We're doing something for y'all, man. Hit that link if y'all would have a question for him about the Warriors. We're talking about everything Warriors today and Clippers. But or you got a comment you want to look at, man, in the comment section?
No, honestly, I didn't realize we've been doing this for like an hour and a half, so I'm ready for dinner. But let me see if there's anything else here that I don't know. I've tried to answer everyone's questions if possible, but I don't see anything else really Warriors related.
Okay.
I see some funny ass Zion comments. That dude put himself in a hole, man. No pun intended. That's crazy situation, that is crazy. That is crazy. He learned. I hope he learned. I hope you learn, Zion, because don't repeat that mistake, please.
Yeah, that was terrible, man. Well, we'll see what happens with him later. But hey, definitely appreciate you coming in, man. Like I said, next time it's gonna be on your show. Me and my co-host will come on, man.
Deal, we'll do that. Yeah.
And you're definitely welcome anytime, man. On the Pull Up Basketball Podcast, man. And make sure you let the audience know where they can find you on all social media.
And so you and Hope are coming, or is it you and Rick Masters? Who's the other? Or all three of you?
Me and Rick Masters will come. I don't know if Hope wants to come too, but definitely me and Rick will be there.
Hope invite is open for you as well if you want to come. And just promoting, just shameless plugs. Follow me. I like Threads, man. So I'm trying to hype up my Threads account. It's @DogWild. And then if you follow me on Twitter, it's @DogSurfRoadshow. Just follow me there. Subscribe to the show, Locked On Warriors. And dude, thank you so much for having me on, man. This was fun. Thank you.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure having you on, man.
Likewise.
We will have you on again. Right. So as y'all leave the show, man, make sure y'all hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe, as well as get your membership badges. If you have not already got those, hit the Cash App, which is $. Excuse me. Ooh.
Those blunt papers, man, they're harsh on your throat sometimes, dude. You got to go the organic stuff. Sorry, if you don't smoke at all, disregard that.
For real. Cash App, $ BJ Matthews. Next time y'all come in, man, we'll be respectfully say, pull up a seat, pull up a chair, pull up. Peace. Out of here like swimwear.
like that. Woo!
I want to give the floor to my man, Mr. Steve Kerr. Thank you for coming on the show, sir.
BJ, Rick, thank you guys for having me. I'm happy to be here with you.
Knowing historically he's a very accurate three-point shooter. So we know that Steph Curry can shoot. We know that Coach can shoot. And so my question to you is, was there really anything you had to teach Curry, or did he kind of come with it already?
No, I've never talked to him about his shot. He was an all-star by the time I became the coach here. I learned a lot from him, watching him work out. You know, he trains so hard. His shooting routine after practice ends is mesmerizing, and I've had a lot of our players watch Steph to try to pick up on some of the things that he does, and so I've learned as much from him as he has from me. But we've just had a great collaboration. But he's the greatest shooter of all time. I didn't have to teach him one thing.
I appreciate you answering my question. That's it, BJ.
I think makes you top 5 coach of all time. Like, I ain't trying to even ruffle your feathers. I think you're top 5.